Kimberly, and I'm back with you again for another scary story, and I'm just gonna jump right back into the story. You already know what it is. My brother died when I was a child. He kept talking. I think people should know what he said. This is part 2 to the first part, obviously, because it's a very long story, and I want to keep reading it, but it was a lot for me to read in one chunk, so I've taken a break, I went and got a drink, and we're back again. So let's just get right back into this story. Dennis, please come back, please. Wherever you are, just get back here. Harry? Harry? Are you crying? It's hard to tell. So much here already sounds like crying. His words struck me deep enough to make my sobs catch in my throat, and I just started looking at him again, settling back to my previous catatonic distance from what was happening. I can't come back. No getting back. Like spilling something on the ground. No getting it all back inside. And right again. It took a few seconds to force myself to accept this, but I carried on, hoping that maybe I could steer him towards some sign that he was wrong. What's in the other direction? Away from the ocean. That's the way I have to go. If I try to swim, the darkness will tear me up, shred away everything until only my pain is left, and it'll toss that into the clouds. Into the clouds, and I'll scream. Dennis, tell me what is in the other direction. Just the sand, the gray sand, on and on. Not many bad things yet. Not many bad things to see yet. There'll be more when I get to where I'm going. I'm going to start walking now, Harry. Where are you meant to be going? I said. I started digging my nails anxiously into my forearm. There was something nauseatingly, dreadfully true about everything he was saying. It's like the first time you learn the world is round, and it feels weird for a few seconds, but soon you get used to it, to the idea, and you see it's the truth. That's the big secret, and it doesn't matter how flat the ground feels. It doesn't matter how little sense it makes. It's true. And he just kept talking. I can see another person. Can you talk to them? I said, trying to keep my voice steady, feeling like I shouldn't be the one who couldn't keep it together. I suppose I could, but I can't. What do you mean? It's not a talking kind of place. We were supposed to have done all of our talking before we came here. Now we should just keep quiet. But you're talking to me, Dennis. But my voice isn't here. My voice is all the way up there, with you. Dennis, I said, now squeezing my eyes to force the tears back in. Dennis, please tell me what's happening. I think I finally died, and what's happening now is what happens next. The thing that was always going to happen next. It feels right, in a scary way. It's been expecting me for so long, since before I was even a fuzzy little thing that might happen. Since before our parents and their parents, and so far back, it's been expecting me. Please stop talking like that. You don't talk like that. You never have. Sorry, you just sort of see things differently here. Some things you know without ever being told. Some things you forgot. I couldn't think of anything to say and started to worry, remembering that if I left the pauses too long, he could stop answering. Hey, said Dennis, and the edges of his mouth strained out, awkwardly imitating a smile. I see a few more people, and they're all naked, but really naked. Their clothes are off and they are all just gray and wrinkly, but that's not it. You can kind of see inside them. Like all the walls have fallen down and you can see who they are. All their thoughts and feelings just kind of hanging around them like ghosts. It's like someone pulled the clothes off their whole past. They're so naked, Harry. He made a light coughing sound that was meant to be a laugh. That's really scary. Oh, I thought you might have thought it was funny. I don't think we're going to laugh at the same stuff anymore. I think you're different now. I guess that makes sense. So, what are all the people doing? Most of them are moving, same direction as me, towards the center. The center of what? It's just called the center of this place, maybe the center of everything. But what? I said, starting to lose control. Why do you have to go? I don't have to. Nobody has to. Just like you don't need to shake someone's hand when they put it out, or answer them when they talk to you. But it would feel wrong not to. It's what you're meant to do. And there's not any other good options. You don't want to stand still. What happens if you stand still? Depends. A few days ago I passed a woman. A few days? I said, gripping the cold steel of the operating table as I was filled with an eerie sense of vertigo. You You haven't been dead for even a day." "I passed her a few days ago," he said, carrying on like he hadn't heard me. "She didn't reach the center. She just sat down, started going her own way. She's pulled one side of her rib cage out, and it's all stretched, spreading up to her left so high, stretching out the arm, grabbing its corner. Most of her skin started to get hard and flaky, like old wood or crumbling stone. I can see herself. Musician. Liked music. Kind of thought of her like a song. Sometimes it repeated itself. Some bad notes here and there, but it was all pulling itself together. She was reaching the chorus, and it ended. It was over so fast, and she can't accept it. She's picked up this sharp rock off the ground, and she's scraping it past her ribs, like a huge harp, or something angry. Trying to make music, keep the song going, but it's an awful sound. Sawing bone, and it's never going to replace what should have come next. She's already grown into the ground. She's going to be here forever, trying to make the music she missed out on." There was nothing to say to that, so I just went quiet for a while, assuming he'd keep talking. He didn't. "Dennis? Dennis?" No answer. A terrified jolt ran through me, and I started slamming my fist into his chest. "Dennis! Come back, Dennis!" A growl tore out of his mouth, and his frame thrashed upwards, causing me to jump back and tumble down onto the floor, smashing into surgeon's shelves and causing gleaming surgical instruments to rain down around me. I didn't have time to think before I forced myself up and bent over the operating table to stare desperately into my brother's eyes. I took his hand again, squeezing it as hard as I could. "Harry," he said, and relief flooded through me. "It's been so long. So long. It's been years." "What?" "I've been walking for years. Years and years, and it keeps getting worse. It hasn't been a day. It's been so many years, and everything keeps getting worse." What's worse?" "Keeps getting closer to the center. There's so many people now. Thousands, tens of thousands. They're all walking to the center. But what's so terrible? There's more. So many like the girl with the harp I told you about. Stuck in place, trying to fix what happened. Angry about what happened. Rooted to the ground, moaning, calling out names of people they think did this to them. Sometimes a few join up. And when they get all hard and crankly like old statues, they start to grow together. Start to feel each other's pain. Sometimes there's mountains of them. Entire landscapes of people crying about how unfair it all is. I'm still walking. But where are you going? I told you, the center. I'm getting close now. All the clouds with their screaming faces are curving, all curving and being pulled in the same direction, twisting their way into the center. Please just stop walking and come back. Can't. No walking back. Besides, I have to keep moving like everyone else. Doing something weird. It's the quickest way to get the walkers to notice you. Oh God, what are the walkers? Started seeing them more as I got towards the center. They're all over the place now. There's these things walk around on 3 legs like stilts, covered in sharp black shells like thorns. Remember the aquarium? They're kind of like those urchins we saw at the aquarium, but the top part, the main part, it's more exact, kind of arty, like a sculpture designed this shape. Reminds me of some kind of chess piece. When they notice you, they come over to you, toppling towards you, but never falling over on those long legs. Spindly, yeah, that's what you'd say. They're spindly legs, and they stop right over you. You're just between their legs, and you see the holes underneath their main bib, and the tendril comes out. Red, windy tendril, with these itchy hairs comes down, and they start curling and swinging all around you. You almost don't mind at first because they're red. You've been seeing nothing but gray and black for years, and the tendrils are red, and it's beautiful, but then they touch you. They touch you. It's awful. Every bad thing you've ever felt, every bad thing that's ever happened to you starts bubbling up to the surface, drowning you. All the pain that ever went into you rises, up and out, and the walkers feed on it. They lick it with their tendrils. They love the taste of all things that shouldn't have happened. They love the taste of misery. Eventually, they get full and move on, and you get up and keep walking. Jesus, Dennis, Jesus! It's fine. They're bad, but you get a sense of perspective here. Sure, they're scary for you, but they're nothing next to the center. They're bottom feeders, moss that grew out on the outskirts. If they're really like sea urchins, then the center must be like a shark, or a whale, or some huge thing at the bottom of the sea that's too big to come up near the surface. You've never said things like this before. I don't know how to describe it. When you're here, stuff just breaks down a little, and you don't always need to have learned a word, you know? This place is less obsessed with causes and 2 + 2 equaling 4. Its job isn't to make sense, but what is its job? I don't know. Maybe I'll find out at the center. He went quiet again, and this time I wasn't sure I wanted to stop him from drifting off. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear any more of this, but regardless of what I wanted, another groan soon creeped out of his mouth and he was back. Shit, I see it now. I see the center. His hand began to close, slowly but inevitably around mine, overcoming the rigor mortis to press in on my fingers like an iron vice. I kept trying to get out, almost yanking it off the table, but I couldn't even budge inside the agonizing grip. It's inside this huge thing like a beehive, floating above the ground. It's gray too, gray and covered with streaks and ridges, like it was used to be liquid and hardened, or it's like made of web or something. So big, Harry. I've never seen anything like it. All the clouds are swirling down into the hole at the top of it, still screaming. Hundreds of holes, messy, ragged holes, pitch black on the inside. It's bigger than cities, Harry, and everyone's heading towards it. Thousands and thousands swarming under it, pushing against each other and to climb the bridges, messy bridges from the ground right up to the holes, right into the pitch black, the centers. In there, Harry. I'm here. Please, I said, whimpering with the pain in my hand. You can't go in. There's nothing good in that place. I knew this as a fact, not just because of the description, but as a gut feeling. I knew that what he was talking about was real and fundamental, as important a part of our existence as the sun and the moon and birth, but bad somehow, dripping with wrongness to its core. Where else is there to go? I'm at one of the bridges. Please, you can come back. No, that'd be like going back into the womb. Can't be done. This is what's next. Oh! What? Why? Oh God, I'm starting to feel something. I think the center's doing it. I'm getting bitter. Every mean, spiteful, everything angry thing in me. It's swelling, spreading out, and smothering the rest of me. I'm so mad, Harry. I'm getting so much smaller, and my hate is getting so much bigger. His hand tightened, and I screamed. Why was it me? Why was it me and not you? What did you do that I didn't? What did I do that you didn't? I'm sorry, I said, fully in tears. His voice had changed. It was still quiet, but it was rabid. Each word growled and soaked with vitriol. I hate you. Did you know that? Still able to stand, still able to run, still able to breathe. I fucking hate you. I was hurting all the time, and you just stood there feeling sorry for me. You couldn't feel any of it, just waiting to see me die so you could fuck off and do everything I never would. I was yelling and screaming for someone to come in and help. I almost pulled Dennis off the table, his torso hanging over the side, held straight by whatever force was allowing him to squeeze his hand. In all this, his eyes were still as dead as they had always been. And then we went limp. His hand let go. His back sagged, and he crashed to the floor. He'd broken 3 of my fingers, but shock was keeping a distance. I threw myself down onto my knees to see his face, slapping it and looking for any sign he was still there. He gasped again, fainter than ever now. Oh no. Oh Jesus. I'm inside, and it's so much worse than I thought. It's beyond worse. It's so far past the worst I thought something could be. Please, Dennis, listen. Please tell me what's happening. It's the center. It's so big and floating above me. It's so much bigger than the hive, so much bigger than what it's inside. The whole inside is so much bigger than it's so much big. It's gray too, always gray and cracked like stone all over endless miles of it. His voice had changed. It was whiny and small and afraid. It's hurting me, Harry. It's hurting me more than I've ever been hurt, and it hasn't even noticed me. Please, the man told me you need to describe it. He said if you kept talking, you might stay. So big. he said, his voice wobbling and breaking like he was crying. Its fingers are bigger than skyscrapers. It has so many fingers, millions, and ribs. The body is all ribs, or are they just fingers all folded up? I don't know, but there's so many, and so big, Harry. And the mask, Jesus, the masks. What masks? The masks. It's faces, bigger than countries, all different. Some of the eyes are perfectly circular. Others have huge pointy holes where their mouths should be. Some are blank, and some have 8 eye holes, and some look like human faces, like perfect human faces, with deep, dark, hollow eyes, all of them. The inside of them is so dark, a living dark, a pulsing all together, and it's so huge, and you can feel it pressing in on you, filling the air with badness and crushing down on you, and from inside you can feel the bad in you reaching out to it, like a baby reaching out for its mom. And Jesus Christ, Harry. He was breathing in and out, faster and faster, shallow, scared breaths, instincts overcoming the fact that he didn't need air. Dennis, talk to me. What is it? What is it? It's not the devil. No, that's what I thought at first, but it's not. It's more like God. It's like if God hated everything. His breathing hiked up again. Oh, Jesus, it sees me. Please, please promise me one thing. Just promise me one thing. What? What is it? Please, don't ever die. One last breath rolled out of his mouth. I tried everything to get him back, everything I could think about in an animalistic burst of desperate energy. I hit him, shook him, pleaded, but he was really gone this time. I knelt there in that room for a while, his last words carving into a deep part of my mind I knew I could never dig them out of. The next few hours, in fact, the next few days, were kind of a blur. I remember men in the institutes, white scrubs, coming in and dragging me away from the body. I remember getting my hands seen to and put in a cast in sling. I remember Daniel Cohen sitting me down in a bright white room and interrogating me. He called it a conversation, but it was an interrogation, a warm interrogation by a man who could be kind if it meant getting what he wanted. He asked me if I'd had any visions or strong sensations, if I thought Dennis was telling the truth, and if I could explain the ways in which Dennis was acting differently than he already was. I was detached and drowsy from exhaustion and trauma and pain from my hand, and just answered honestly. At the end, Cohen's made me memorize a phone number and sign a load of confidentiality forms, making it very clear that not a word of this could leave the hospital. I was to call if I started experiencing any phenomena I thought were related to my Dennis. And finally, they left. My parents and I took a taxi home. We didn't talk about what had happened after Dennis died, and I suppose that even that was the secondary add-on to the simple fact that Dennis was now probably dead and not coming back. We went home, got to bed, and the next morning we had a wordless breakfast with an extra chair pulled up. The years flew by, and the whole experience became something I just had to live with. Some dreaded thing my thoughts would sometimes steer me back to, but mostly I managed to keep living, to accept it all as something. I couldn't understand. The fact that Dennis was gone was always worse than the way he went, however terrifying and unnatural it was. But lately, I've been having a dream. It started off vague and incomplete, but every few nights it repeated, getting longer and more vivid. It always starts the same, with me and Dennis, both of us kids again, on a green hill on a bright, clear day. Crisp air sighing past us. I can't remember most of the words, but the gist is that he's bragging, showing off, saying that Dad loves him more, that he's better than me, that he's going to keep being better for as long as he's alive. He's going to keep making Dad love him more for as long as he's able. And I get so mad, way madder than I'd ever gotten if he said those things in real life. I see a rock, and without thinking, I pick it up and attack him with it, knocking him over and beating him again and again until his skin is swollen and torn, and you would see parts of his skull underneath. He managed to push me off and run, and I followed, never thinking twice about it. I chase him so far until finally he runs into a pass between two mountains in a long, dark range that I somehow never see until this point. The range extends to either side, seemingly forever, and the sky above it is saturated with dark, heavy clouds. It's like Mordor or something. I always stop running at this point, knowing that I chased him far enough. The job is done. I start to leave my body, surging forward down the pass. No longer myself, just a nameless, thoughtless observer, gliding like a ghost, for lack of legs. He runs down the dark pass, on, and into a sunless, barren country on the other side, a place where the soil is gray and dry. He runs for ages, but soon he stops and falls and curses me, screams about how much he hates me, and how I cost him by driving him into this place. He rages for a long time. Then a second person comes, sometimes a man, sometimes a woman, sometimes old, sometimes young. They say they were too driven past the mountains, or that they wandered past them by mistake and can't go back. Dennis always says the same thing. Then let's suffer together. Let's hunt together. And this person always latched on to Dennis, and Dennis latches back. And they scream and cry, and say they want to see people who wronged them skinned alive. And more always come. A trickle first, then a flood, latching on to Dennis and the first person. All of them clasping together and piling into a giant, deafening mass of squirming bodies, and eventually it's huge, almost up to the clouds. And then there's a rumbling, a massive shifting sound. The countless bodies start to rearrange, forming deep canyons of flesh that make up a horrendous, rage-filled outline of a face. There's a shift greater than any earthquake. The pile moves, rolling forward, pulling itself with enormous appendages made out of the miserable and the bitter and the despairing. It inches and tumbles on, crashing down and dragging itself onwards with overwhelming apocalyptic sounds. And then I see that it's heading for the mountains. It's heading back to the bright place with all its anger and hate and vengeances. And as much as it's made of millions and millions of people, I always know it's still one thing. One thing with one but all the hatreds of everyone buried in it, all the way back to the first one to curse. His rage still in there, rage directed at the first one to sin. It gets right up to the mountains, and then I wake up. I think something's coming. Something that got started a long time ago. Something that strips away good and builds itself on the bad. And I think it's almost strong enough to set out, to start moving. And I think when it gets here, the living will be no better off than the dead. What the even heck? I'm actually really confused right now, so baffled. Is his brother somehow sending him these dreams? Trying to warn him almost that something bad is coming, but at the same time trying to scare him, but still trying to kill him. I really don't know. I'm actually very confused by that story, but it was very interesting to see this guy's perspective of what he thinks death is gonna be after we die, I guess. I'm speaking about the author, not the character, obviously. But yeah, I'm a bit confused, and if you guys have any idea as to what it means exactly, please let me know, because I don't totally understand, but at the same time, the writing was phenomenal. I love reading these stories just because they're so good and so well written, and I applaud these authors because I could never, ever do anything like that. Yeah, but I really hope you guys enjoy this story. Once again, like always, if there's a story you'd like to see me read in the future, please just leave it down in the comments below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for new videos. I am trying to post new videos every Saturday, and we'll see about other days, because I know I used to have my super duper Sundays and whatnot, but we'll see. Yeah, but until next time, you guys, bye.